Hi guys, good evening and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Skincare. This is episode 12 and tonight we're going to be taking a little bit of a departure from our normal pure skincare stuff to talk a little bit about foundations. Before we get stuck into that though, as I always do, is to remind you to do your skin inventory if you haven't already done it. So pop over to tkaesthetics.com and complete your skin inventory. And this just gives you a guideline to follow when you're checking out your own skincare and things that you might want to address when you're either buying skincare products or you are talking to a practitioner about your skincare. Also, if you have any questions as we go along tonight, or even if you're watching this video on repeat, then do post the questions in the comments below and I will get around to answering them as soon as I can. So I'm Dr. Trevor Killeen from TK Aesthetics, and this, as I said, is Let's Talk Skincare. So tonight's episode has come about a little bit by a mistake in that I misread one of the comments that was posted a little while ago by Nicola. So Nicola, my apologies for that, but I will answer your actual question a little bit later on, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later on. So tonight I'm going to be combining my doctor hat with my makeup artist hat. So I first picked up a makeup brush at the age of 16, around that same time I became interested in skincare. And whilst I've taken a bit of a tortuous route to becoming a doctor, I also spent some time working and teaching makeup artistry. So that certainly wasn't today nor yesterday, and so my love of both makeup and skincare has continued right the way through all of my different careers that I've had. So first and foremost about foundations, because that's what we're talking about tonight, is it's not actually about the foundation itself. A lot of the time it's about what we're putting that foundation on. So it's really, really important that you maximize your skin, because as with anything, whether you're painting a wall or whether you're an artist doing a canvas, if the canvas you're working on is not in good condition, then your makeup or your paint or whatever you're putting on top of that will not sit properly. So no matter how good the foundation, no matter how expensive, no matter what all singing, all dancing foundation is, if your skin is not in good condition underneath, it's not going to look good when you put it on. Now, the use of foundation is certainly nothing new. It does have quite a checkered past though, and the first sort of recorded uses of foundation goes back to Greek and Roman times when they mixed chalk, which contained a lead component, and mixed that with vinegar to create quite a crude foundation to make the skin look paler. And this was generally by the aristocracy because that was the thing of the time. And of course this practice continued right the way through. Probably one of the more famous ones that we would know would be around Elizabethan times, when it was also used to cover skin imperfections and discoloration. As time moved on, then the bases may have changed a little bit and include water and oil and zinc, oil or wax, and then zinc oxide and some other pigments then were started to be used in place of the lead, which of course gave people lead poisoning. So it wasn't exactly the most healthy of things to do. Things have changed. Today's formulations use various different ingredients, but essentially the principle of a foundation has basically the same idea as it did way back when. So it has, first of all, it has moisturizers. So these are usually oils, so jojoba, avocado, all those sort of things that you would normally expect in a skincare product. Some waxes, some water, and now even we use some silicones as well, which are used to give different finishes to different foundations. So you have a moisturizer element, you have your pigments, and pigments will be in different concentrations depending on the type of foundation that you have, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. And then you have things like fillers, so bulking agents like talc and things like that. So they are the three main ingredients in a foundation. It hasn't changed over time. They tend to be the same. So you've got something that it's held in, you've got a pigment to give it its color, and then you have sometimes other things to bulk it out or to help it stick to the skin a little bit better. Talc in particular is a filler that goes on that helps it to spread easier on the skin. The exception to this would be your powder foundations, and these lack some of the moisturizers element part of it, but they generally are. Some of those are replaced with ingredients that cause the makeup to adhere a little bit better to the skin. So different types of foundations. So you have your powder foundation, as I've just mentioned. But then you've got the ones that are more liquid. So you've got your liquid foundation, a cream foundation moving up from that, a pan stick or a stick, and then into your camouflage and concealers. And the difference between all of these will be the components, the different ratio of components that you find in them. So generally, the different type of moisturizer as you go through them, and also then the different amount of pigment that is in each one. Excuse me. So you also have some specialist foundations. So specialist foundations may be for specific skin concerns. So, sorry, my apologies. Things like antibacterial agents, salicylic acid for acne, anti-inflammatories for acne, or for things like rosacea and things like that. So once again, just a quick reminder that if you have any questions, then do pop them in to the comment section below. So first on the list is tinted moisturizers or liquid foundations. And these tend to be the most sheer, so they have little pigment in them, probably a bit of a higher water content, and will then have some other moisturizing agents for the skin. They, as I said, have less pigment than things like your creams and your pan stick foundations. We also have sort of the newer development of those, so your BB creams, which is your blemish balm creams, that actually lie somewhere between a tinted moisturizer and a liquid foundation, and they have added ingredients like antioxidants, SPFs. Your CC creams, which are your colour control creams, which have different components that help to counteract tones in the skin. So if you have very sallow skin or very high colour redness in your skin, then the CC creams are designed to try and counteract and counterbalance that colour in your skin. And as the alphabet continues then, some of the more newer ones, you have DD creams, which are dynamic do-it-all creams, and they're a hybrid between the BB creams and the CC creams. One thing I would say about your moisturizers though, although sometimes they will say that they've got an SPF in them, and they probably do, that may not last you through the day, so I find it's better to put on a separate SPF moisturizer as well as your moisturizer, because it's specifically designed for that purpose. What sort of skin types are they good for? Well, they tend to be a little bit better for unblemished skin, so younger skins and people who don't have many problems with their skin. Also, sometimes during the summertime, then they might be a better foundation for you to use, because your skin will have some of its natural colour anyway, and you may not need the depth of colour that you would normally use in your normal foundation. So moving up the ladder then to cream foundations or your pan sticks, and these are moving from the lighter coverage to a slightly heavier coverage. And these are also designed more so around dry skin types or drier skin types. The reason being is that they tend to have better, sort of more oils in them, so better moisturizing agents, and that helps to sit better on top of dry skin. To help these work a little bit better, you might want to pop them on with a little bit of your moisturizer. That sometimes can help. They tend to have a little bit more, as I said, the oils and that replace some of the dryness in the skin. The only problem with these, if you don't set them properly, so if you didn't use a powder over them, then they may well run into creases, and you may cause problems in creases around the eye area, especially if you don't set them with a light powder afterwards to make sure that they stay where they're supposed to do. And then our final category before we talk about powders is camouflage creams or concealers. Camouflage creams are very high in pigment, usually in an oil base, and these are very specialist creams, and these are used to cover tattoos, burns, any scarring that has high colour in it, striae or stretch marks and things like that. So these are generally much thicker. They're designed to cover, they usually have colour balancing in them again, so you may use one camouflage cream to counteract the colour, and then you use a second camouflage cream on top of that to provide the skin tone. And so they are quite specialist foundations. And then of course, I've already mentioned a couple of times powders. So powders are generally pigment with some adhesion ingredients and some fillers, and they can be either compact or loose. They can be a bit tricky to get to master, if you like, and they're generally better for normal to oily skins. Some people find in combination skins that they are a little bit tricky, because what you end up with is a darker patch where the oil is, so where it gets absorbed in, mixed with the oils, and the pigment changes slightly, so you get slightly darker patches, and then in the drier areas you get lighter patches, and so these aren't always suitable for people with combination skin. So powders have some advantages in that they don't have as many ingredients generally, and so are often marketed as being sort of minerals. And I mean, there are minerals, pigments. The pigments in most foundations are mineral based, so zinc oxide, titanium oxide, and things like that. So they would be some of your sunscreen components, as well as the zinc oxide and various other element oxides mineral oxides would be used as pigments. So they tend to be better for drier skin. Powders are not suitable for drier skins because they just make the dryness worse, and they pull those oils and sometimes even the hydration out of the skin rather than helping to keep them in the skin. So certainly powder is better for, again, probably younger skins, oilier skins, or normal skins, but certainly wouldn't be recommending them to use on drier skin. It doesn't really achieve anything. Okay, so Nicola, back to yourself and to your question. So Nicola had said to me in the question that she actually changes her foundation during the summer months, and she was asking, would you need to change your moisturizer during the summer months? The answer to that very much is quite simply possibly. It depends. Our skin changes as the climate changes. So with exposure to UV light, or an increased exposure to UV light, and to the circumstances that we might find ourselves in the summer, our skin will change. So we will produce more sweat. We will therefore produce more oil and an increased cell production. So you may find that your skin becomes a little bit more oily. You may even have breakouts, and these are not sort of your traditional acne breakouts. But if you're putting added moisturizers on there, so added oils onto your skin in your normal moisturizer, then what you may actually want to do is to use a slightly lighter moisturizer during the summer months, always making sure that you use an SPF to try and protect the skin from UV light. The other thing is that during the summer months we tend to expose ourselves to swimming pools, salt water, things like that if we're down at the beach or the pool, and that can be very, very drying on the skin. So actually you may find yourself that you need a lighter moisturizer in the morning and then a slightly heavier moisturizer in the evening, depending on what you've done during the day. So Nicola, I hope that helps with your question. So you would need to sort of have an idea of what's happening with your skin and how it's affecting you. So if you're getting it feels a little bit oilier and greasier, then go for a slightly lighter moisturizer or foundation moisturizer. If it's going for if it's feeling dry because you're exposing it to chlorine in swimming pools, salt water, things like that, then you'll need to go for a slightly heavier one. But as I said, you may want to team those up. The other thing as well is that we tend to use more sunscreens. Although we should be using the SPF every day, all year round, we do tend to use more sunscreens, particularly if we're going out in the sun. You do need to apply those regularly. And so you are actually adding more moisturizing agents in those sunscreens to your skin as well. So your skin may react differently to those. So if anybody has any questions, I'll just have a quick check here. Don't have any questions this evening, but as I said, if you do have any questions, then do pop them in the comments and I will get back to you. Let me know if there's anything that you'd like covered in upcoming episodes. There'll only be probably another few more before I finally can get back to my normal routine, but I may well continue them afterwards. But do let me know if there's anything you'd like me to cover over the next couple of weeks. If you haven't already done so, then I'm going to remind you again to check out this Skinventory, and that is a simple checklist for you to follow to come up with a list of priorities so that you have a clear idea of what you're going to be looking for in a skincare product or in a treatment range. As always, I'm available for online consultations. If anybody had any questions, you can drop me a line and we can set that up for you. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you next week.